everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel. I am Dr. Ashwati. Students, in this lecture, I am going to discuss about authoritarian regimes. In your syllabus, you must have seen that democratic regimes, authoritarian regimes, like how do you differentiate between them? Democracy, we all know that it is a form of a government created through the consent of the people. Like people participate in the popular elections and at that time they choose their representative. So, very clear cut one. As you know that like there are many democratic countries in the world, India which is the largest democracy, USA one of the oldest democracy and many other countries are there. But authoritarian systems, they are very interesting ones. Although the number of the authoritarian regimes in the world are very less, or we can say that they are becoming, or they are like the forms of the different forms of authoritarian regimes are actually shrinking in the world, but still like in the 20th century we have seen many authoritarian regimes. Now there is obviously a kind of a new or we can say that a popular enthusiasm is also there, that we need democracy, or like pro-democratic voices are also increasing. Colored revolutions that I have already discussed in one of my previous classes, like Rose Revolution, Tulip Revolution, Velvet Revolution and different types of revolutions that we have witnessed in the post-Soviet states as well as in the Middle East, or we can typically say that the West Asia and the North Africa. So, let us check out some of the features of the authoritarian regimes. So, one, and what we can say that one of the foremost, or we can say that one of the most peculiar like feature of an authoritarian regime is the absence of democracy, or we can say that the absence of the popular voice. Or elections are conducted, let us say that the elections are conducted at the procedural level. We cannot say that it is having a substantive quality, it is of a substantive quality. Basically elections are held but they are manipulated, or like manipulation of votes happen, or let us say that the what you call it as the institutions or the institutions associated with the conduct of elections are weakened by the authoritarian regime in itself, that elections happen but not at the substantive level but at the most procedural level, and as we know that it happens only at the level of what we say that like only one party actually wins the election, nor other like opposition parties are silenced. So, many times such elections are also accompanied by violence, like the violent acts which is often perpetrated by the powerful or the stronger authoritarian regimes party or by the members of the party itself. And then we have the second feature, the weak political institutions, as we know that there needs a strict checks and balances between the three organs of the government, the legislature, the executive and the judiciary. But in the states which have weaker institutions, it means that there is no clear cut distinction, or we can say that there is no checks and balances between the three organs of the government, plus mostly these institutions are actually what we call it as they form kind of a patrimonial state, or sometimes they are even called as neo-patrimonial state system are also formed. Weak or absent popular political participation, because you don't see that people coming out participating in the election against the or stand like representatives that are there to contest elections against that authoritarian party or anything, like it can be like authoritarianism have different forms are there, but yes, you don't see that a viable opposition coming there and participating in the open competition, because free and fair elections never take place. Then we have the centralization of power, even the fourth pillar of democracy that we call it as the media, the press, the newspapers, their powers are also curtailed. Press censorship is quite common, or we can say that there are only those the media outlets are allowed to function which actually praise the government in power or the authoritarians in power. So, centralization of power, weak press, or we can say that commonly the press censorship is quite common in such countries. Then no independent judiciary, like people cannot just go to the court for the redressal of their grievances, because often these are also rigged. Then lack of freedom, political and social specifically, people don't have the right to speak, and when they speak, like they cannot give the constructive criticism of the government in power, because there is always a possibility that if you raise a single opposing voice, then there is a possibility of getting arrested, or in the worst cases even getting killed as well. Then absence of opposition, you don't find major opposition parties as well. Then political opponents are eliminated, they are either like tortured to the level that they don't think about challenging the regime in power. So we have different types or forms of authoritarian regimes are there. We have absolute monarchies, then we have the ruling presidents, one party states, military type of governments, and many other types are also there that we will be discussing today. So first we are going to start with the absolute monarchies. The kings, they don't have the constitutional monarchy, it's a absolute monarchy. There is one dynastic families out there which is actually ruling the country. So everything, the whole governance actually is performed by that one family, and in this situation what happens is like that all the ministries, everything belongs to the same royal family. So we have the examples from the Middle East, or let's say that from the West Asia itself, like we have the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, then Bahrain, UAE, and then after Kuwait, like there are so many countries that I have mentioned here, Oman, they are run by the royal families, Al Saud families and various other families which are there. So the royal family actually controls the key institutions, whether it is the appointment of the ministers, everyone, like they all belong to the same single family, even in terms of sending their like missions abroad, like the diplomats, even the ambassadors, they all belong to the to the same family. Then in the Southeast Asia, you have the Brunei Darussalam is also there. So like absolute monarchies, although their numbers are few, but still they do exist in the world. Then we have the ruling presidents, like they never desire to leave the that politics itself, right? Robert Mugabe was there, and various other types of like dictators. It was quite common in Africa after the decolonization process happened, and Samuel P. Huntington has also written about it, that after throughout the 60s many African countries got independence. So what happened after that was, like after getting independence, everywhere there was obviously a kind of a call for establishment of democracy, but the politically, where let's say that the power greedy people, they captured the state power and they never left it. So there are so many different types of dictatorial type of governments that were formed in African countries. So we have like Angola, Zimbabwe are some of the examples to the ruling presidents. Then we have the one party states. Now here it is not about one single person or anything, but one party that actually remains in power and the other opposition parties are silent. So we have the Communist Party of China. So we have this is a rule by one party, no inter-party competition is allowed. So here Workers' Party of Korea, Communist Party of Vietnam, Chinese Communist Party, CCP, these are some of the best examples of one party states, or we can say that one party states, right? It is not one party dominance, don't get confused. One party states is a situation where only there is a rule by one party, no inter-party competition is allowed. It means that they allow only one party to take part in the elections. So when I talk about here about Workers' Party of Korea, this is about North Korea, DPRK. Now we have the military rule. Military rule is often like we see there are two types, the single leader, then after military junta is also there. So military junta is like a kind of a group of military person, the top brass taking control of the power. We have the best example, that is from our neighbor itself, Myanmar. But single leader military rules that we have seen in various countries in our neighborhood itself, Pakistan under Ayub Khan, Yahya Khan, Ziaul Haq, Parvez Musharraf, these are some of the best examples. Then in Bangladesh also, like Bangladesh witnessed the military dictatorship under Ziaur Rahman, Irshad. So here we have the single leader of military junta, the government by the military and ruling different branches of the government by the military and ruling different branches of armed forces. That ruling is by different branches of the armed forces, like they take control of the key institutions, and in these countries the civil military relations are often very weak, and here there is no scope for the civilian government to sustain. And in some cases what happens is like that the military dictator, they try to give a kind of a democratic color to their governance. This has happened in Pakistan as well as in Bangladesh as well. Then we have the final form, that is the theocracy. Theocracy is a kind of that how the religion actually intermixes with that of the politics. So the religious leaders govern directly. So here we have one of the best example, that is from Iran. So students, in this lecture we have discussed about different types of authoritarian regimes that exist in the world, and some of them are very contemporary as well, that we see often. So students, go through the authoritarian, what do you mean by the authoritarian regimes and what are its principal forms. These things are very important points with reference to your UGC NET or preparation for political science. See you in another lecture, students. Bye.